All right, so it is Friday, and we are here for a very awesome, amazing new announcement for our pregnant and postpartum moms. I think you all are going to enjoy the information that we're going to talk about today, myself and Marie Kinsella.
Hello.
We're both going to introduce ourselves formally, but I want to let you know that we're going to talk about some amazing things over the next few minutes. So just pay attention. So if you guys don't know, my name is Melanie Hutton. I am certified lactation counselor with the Partnership for Maternal and Child's Health and the Healthy Women, Healthy Families program. I am a breastfeeding professional. I provide lactation support, healthy infant feeding education, and I facilitate groups for families that are interested in our area. All of these services are free and they're voluntary, so you can come hang out with us and stay, or you can come check us out and figure out if you want to stay. Most people want to stay though. So we have made some changes to the group, and I want to introduce one of the persons who helped us to create this new kind of outlook on how we're going to help families. So Marie.
Hi. I'm Marie Kinsella. I'm the Director of Community Programs. And as Melanie mentioned, she has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to breastfeeding and breastfeeding peer support and support. And, for the last couple of years, we've been doing things a different way. And we decided this year to do things differently. And the whole goal is to really involve the community in breastfeeding. And so, Melanie's going to introduce the name, and I hope that through our conversation, you'll get to hear and learn more about the things that we're doing and how you can become involved in really creating this new culture of breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Marie. And what Marie is talking about is we have been known as Sisters Who Breastfeed Jersey City and Paterson in the past. And we've done some awesome work over the years. We've worked in the community with moms. We've got our footing and we learned a little bit about the community. And now we've decided that we are a Mocha movement. We are a breastfeeding community, and that name represents what we want to offer to the community. And what that means is we've learned some things over the past couple of years. And one of the things we've learned is that we can support as many moms as we want to in the community, but we also need the community to come in and join in what we're doing. So in addition to our moms groups, our educational workshops that we host, and the consultations that I provide one-on-one with moms who are wanting it, we also need our daycare providers, our high schools, our elementary schools, our religious organizations, our community leaders to join in and support this initiative and our progress. So Mocha Movement has basically opened their doors, and we are welcoming everybody, and we're gonna help figure out where you fit in this community. And I think that sums it up a little bit, right?
Yeah, Melanie, and I think you did sum it up very well. When we look at pregnancy and birth givers, and it is really a community. It can be a community. I think we've moved away from that over the years. And I've noticed over the last, I want to say several years, I've seen that start to develop again. People are saying, hey, we need to be more invested in so many things when it comes to our birthing people and the whole, and every aspect of it. And I think, this breastfeeding movement, which has a lot of steam at this point in time, is just wonderful to be a part of. And so I know that you and I have been talking about generational issues and challenges. And so I know there are a few questions that you had for me, or there were some things you were thinking of. So I'd be interested in hearing what those questions are.
Absolutely. So we always talk. Marie and I, we spend a lot of time together. We brainstorm together. She offers amazing advice to me because although I have a good amount of breastfeeding experience, the administrative part is coming to me and I'm learning a lot. But we have very open discussions about parenting and how things have changed. Um, and one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, you know, I know when I was pregnant with my children, I have three, I was always looking to my mom and my aunts and the older, women who seem to have done things so easily. And I was like, what what's changed as far as the advice that you were given and the advice that you're giving now compared to, how have things changed? Like, how do you talk to the younger pregnant birth givers, or just what do those conversations look like now?
Melanie, those conversations aren't as rich as I'd like them to be because things have changed.
Mhm.
When I was pregnant, I certainly looked to my mom for, support, but there was certain information that she didn't have access to. There were things that we just didn't talk about. I gave birth to four of my children in the 60s, and at the hospital, one of the things we learned, and I learned this through my mother, how to sterilize those glass bottles, how to make that carnation formula, how to make sure I put just enough Karo white syrup in that formula
Mhm.
and gave it to the baby and
Yes.
made sure, and it was that sort of, that was the information that I was given. I
Mhm.
didn't think about breastfeeding at that point in time, but I will say, when my husband and I decided to have the fifth baby, breastfeeding was on my mind. And I just felt like in 1980, there weren't the resources that I needed. So there was really no one to talk to about that. I remember trying to talk to a nurse about it, but it didn't work out so well. And so for me, I have to say, when my daughters started having children, in the early 90s, it wasn't advice that I could give them on, breastfeeding. So that conversation never came up. But
Mhm.
because I became involved in maternal and child health, I started to realize things, the importance of, care during pregnancy, postpartum, and certainly breastfeeding entered into that. So I will say that the conversation is richer with my granddaughters,
Mhm.
but I do find that they're not asking questions. I'll start the conversation, in fact, I just had two granddaughters who delivered in the last 6 months. And because I have become so involved in such a proponent of breastfeeding, I didn't want to strong arm them, but I took a cue from you and I said, so how are you going to feed the baby? Which really kind of opened the door. And
Yes.
we were able to start talking about breastfeeding. Um, and so I will say that both of them are breastfeeding mommies. I do wish that I had more information to give them. And so one of the things that I decided to do myself was I am taking a CLC class because I want to be able to provide accurate information, you
Mhm.
know, to my, to my family, to my
Yes.
village, if you will. And so I think the evolution has been, now we're starting to talk about things that probably my grandmother and great grandmother talked
Mhm.
about many years ago,
Yes.
because that was the process. But somewhere, as pregnancy became so medicalized, I think we kind of lost that community aspect. So for me, it's about, I've learned some things, I'm trying to share those things. And so I'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
How how does the older woman approach the younger woman in terms of things surrounding pregnancy, healthy feeding? Because, one of the support groups that it was a focus group we had a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
And it was very surprising to me when I heard one of the young women say, well, we can't talk to the older women because they don't want to listen. And
Yeah.
that was when I heard that, that just like struck a chord with me. And I remember going to church that Sunday and
Uh-huh.
talking to one of the sisters at the church. And she said, oh, you don't want to talk to the younger women because they don't want to listen.
They
I
don't.
said, all right. I said to myself right there, something is going on. And
Yeah.
so like, how do we approach that?
So I think that is a great question. And I want to thank you for sharing, some honest answers about what you've experienced. I I do agree that there's some kind of disconnect. So our moms and our aunties and the older generation kind of feel like we don't listen and vice versa. And I think that's where we need to shift our thinking, because we don't need to listen to each other. We need to support each other, you know, and that makes a much better relationship than trying to tell someone something, because sometimes you can just sit back and not say anything and just watch. I want to, we're talking a lot about our personal experiences, and I always think that personal experiences help the person that you're engaging with come to a decision when you hear something that resonates with you that somebody else experienced. And I know with my mom, the same as you said, her mom, my grandma taught her how to make the carnation with the Cairo syrup, mixed it. My brother and my sister got it. And I'm a child of so-and-so age. And she thought about breastfeeding with me, and nobody was receptive around her. So she went with what the acceptable, the acceptable role was, and that was to formula feed. And it's funny, years later, when I chose to breastfeed, at first, my mom was so not standoffish, but she gave off she just didn't understand why I was doing this or what made me want to do this. And once she started to see the difference, how healthy my children were, how engaged we were with each other, how much money I was saving and not having to borrow from her, the bond that we were developing, how the developmental milestones, she would always comment, oh my gosh, the girls talk so much and so clearly. And my son was hitting his milestones and his goal. And she was like, this is so amazing. And it changed her mindset to see this happen. So now when her friends have grandkids and she's like, if they're going to breastfeed, they should talk to Melanie, or this is what happened with my grandchild. So I think an example, we always like to see, with the eye, what we're going to get. We don't want to have to think about it. So making breastfeeding more normal, showing other people that it can be done, I think that's how we can kind of shift this and grow from it, is to make it normal.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because once I started learning the mechanics of it, if you will, and, I attended some trainings, some rudimentary information as it relates to breastfeeding, I started to understand things, better. And it has gotten me to a point where, so now I'm talking to my peers and saying, are you interested? Do you want to learn a little bit about breastfeeding? No, we're way past breastfeeding age, because we're not going to have children, but wouldn't it be nice to be having these conversations with our granddaughters and our daughters and our nieces and
and our sons.
And our sons. And thank you for bringing that up, Melanie, because when we talk about the community, we cannot forget the male component of this. So for me, it's like, I'm very hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm energized, and I do believe that there are going to be some opportunities for older women to really, I see us marching with shirts, grandmas for
Yeah.
breastfeeding,
Yeah, I like that.
something like that, so that the younger women will know that we are there to support them, but we need to, and as you mentioned, let it be a free-flowing conversation.
Yeah.
We're not going to say you need to do this, this, or that. Let's talk and see what's going to work best for you.
Absolutely. And I think this is a great segue to something that we both wanted to make sure we discuss today, which is our champions and our ambassadors and our peers that we're looking for in the community. So when we started out, we explained that, you know, we want to focus on the breastfeeding and the healthy infant feeding family, but we also know that our faith-based organizations, our educators, our healthcare providers, our childcare providers are important in these roles too. So we want to widen the range of people who are able to provide healthy infant feeding information for those who want it. And Mocha Movement is introducing an ambassador program for almost anybody who's interested. Some of our leaders and our ambassadors will be able to receive incentives for participating, and some will get recognition for helping out in the community. But I think this is an amazing way to support almost everybody, as many people as we can. Yeah. Do you want to add to that, Marie? Because I know you have ideas. We've been bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is wonderful. You know what, and you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the educational session you did for the community in Paterson. 2 weeks. You had it was a 2-part series. It was wonderful. People really got an opportunity to hear and know the dynamics and the just all aspects of breastfeeding. You did such a wonderful job, and to hear those questions asked. And I think it's things like, you know, having little sessions like that. I mean, I know your focus will be support group and supporting the women, but we're also thinking about, you know, doing these educational sessions in the community, you know, maybe 2 to 3 times a year, because that's the only way we're going to really cultivate this this culture. A culture of, and a community of breastfeeding, like Mocha Movement. That's like our byline.
Yeah, it flows so nicely. Mocha Movement. No, I agree that session, that workshop was amazing. It's been a very long time since we've been able to do something like that. And what I noticed is the women and the families and even the community organizations, because we had 4Cs was participating so they could better serve the families that they work with. What I noticed is there was so much information that I wanted to include that we were stuck on time for. There were so many questions that weren't included in what we were talking about and brought on new conversations. And that only proved to me more that we need to stay in close contact. We need a group, we need a time frequently to kind of meet and just make sure we cover all the bases and talk about the things that come up. So that's why we have our monthly meetings. That's why I'm available for moms to call and to text, to have conversations in between when we normally meet, because there's so much information about our babies. There's so much information about pregnancy, about postpartum, that you can't fit it into a 2-part or 3-part or 1-hour meeting. There needs to be that constant conversation going, that line of communication. And that's, again, what Mocha Movement has so many different facets and so many different layers to it.
So briefly, we talked about the male component. How do you see that going? And I know, you know, when we say partners, but in this instance, I do want to say males, because traditionally they have not been included in the birthing process. You know,
and I don't know why.
I don't, since they played a major part in the conception process.
Yes.
So, you know, are you thinking, you know, what can we do in that? Can we get a male ambassador someone.
I would love to have a male ambassador, a male champion. Um, I always share this story. I don't know if I shared it with you before. I'll be really quick, but I was working with another organization and I had a mom come in that just was at her wit's end. And she was like, I don't know what to do. I can't get this baby latched on. I don't have any milk. All the red flags were popping off. So we calmed her down. We got baby latched on. She was happy with that. She left with some knowledge after that, and then I called her to follow up a couple of days later, and her husband answered. And she was busy, but I could hear her in the background talking. We were all talking together, and he was there when we first met. And when we met the first time, he was on his phone. He had his phone and he was texting. It didn't seem like he wanted to engage with us at all. This was woman stuff, right? But when I followed up and called, I'm asking him, I'm like, well, how long are, how often are they breastfeeding? Is she complaining about any pain? And dad was firing off and he's like, I told her, I reminded her what you said, that the baby had to be really close, and, any hands to the mouth was a hunger sign. Dads are always listening. They may not engage like us, but they're really good reminders. I know I listen to my man. When he says something, he's my backup. We all have a partner. If you're fortunate enough to have a good partner or good family members, even they're good cheerleaders for you, and they'll remind you of the things that you sometimes forget. And this dad was an awesome champion. I'll never forget. And it was so amazing to see how supportive he was. And they flourished. They did really, really good.
Yeah.
So I do
And
think
so
we need
Melanie,
that.
just listening to your excitement, and that
Mhm,
I'm excited, and it's really about community. And I
mhm.
think that if ever there were a time to get a movement such as this going,
Yeah,
it's now.
it's now.
People are really becoming very interested. They are being aware,
Mhm.
that there are some benefits, and they want to become involved. So my question to you is, talk a little bit about, how they can become involved, and
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. So we have reformatted our Facebook page and our Instagram page. So if you are on social media and you follow Facebook or Instagram and you've already were following our old group, everything's there for you. All our events will be posted. There's a link in the bio. There's a link in the information about Mocha Movement on Facebook. And it's basically Mocha Movement dot pmch.org. You can find us there. My phone number is posted in amazing places everywhere. I do get some good phone calls, but for anybody today, grab your pen or your pencil or your phone. You can reach Melanie at 973-820-5694. That is my work cell. You can text me, you can call me. I make myself available. I can link you to the group. We can have a conversation, whichever you like. But like I said before, our social media sites are really where we're going to make sure we post a lot of our information, our upcoming workshops. We're going to highlight moms, all that good stuff. And again, my phone number. So just contact me, let me know. And I hope to see as many people who are interested in normalizing breastfeeding, as I can possibly handle.
Yes. Again, Melanie, it's always a pleasure talking with you. I hope that people feel our excitement, excuse me, about this, because this is really a community issue,
Yeah,
and there are things that we can do. And so when we think about Mocha Movement, it just encaptures everything that you and I have envisioned when it comes
yes,
to breastfeeding and creating a culture of breastfeeding support.
absolutely, absolutely. When we repost the video, I am going to make sure I provide my information again so that you guys can see it, and stay tuned for what's coming up next. Thank you, Marie.
Bye,
Bye-bye, you guys.
everyone. Take care.